Hello and welcome. For China Solved, I'm Andrew Hubert, and this is the China Negotiator. So you're a strategic competitor. Episode 6, Phases of a China Negotiation, from Denial to Acceptance. The takeaway from today's talk. Why should Western negotiators in China make new mistakes when the old ones seem to be working just fine? We are going to win the trade war, probably soon, but we are going to lose the trade peace, and that may have already started. While we fret about lost royalties and licensing fees, China is building an international network, the likes of which have not been seen anywhere in the world since we had that same network in 2016. And China and Xi Jinping have somehow moved into the central global trade facilitation role. And we totally invented that job. They're just a less hot version of us. But it's going pretty well for China internationally, and I think that we are starting to see the cost of having a thin bench and too many priorities at State Department. So the phases of a Chinese negotiation: denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. Some of you may have heard these before. So the first phase for the China negotiator is denial, when you can just decide that you're not going to believe all the research, all the experience, all the analysis of doing deals in China. You are going to decide that this is easy and that you can force China to break its own rules and rewrite its own basic business DNA, an approach to trade and commerce and economics. Later, this denial will be used to deny that you somehow lost this deal. The next phase is anger. You are clearly being given the runaround. Maybe you did everything wrong, or maybe you did everything right, but somehow, suddenly, for some reason, they aren't so friendly, you're not so brilliant, and your luggage is in the back of their car 3 hours before your flight leaves. And now you're talking about serious numbers and schedules and timetables, and the story has changed completely. You've been sending home positive signals the entire time, and now it looks like there's a real chance you're going to come home without a deal, and you are not happy. And this leads to the next phase, which is bargaining. And this is the phase where American and Western negotiators really break out their negotiating chops, and they pull out all the stops, and they do an excellent, concerted, highly focused job. Unfortunately, they're no longer negotiating with the Chinese. They're now negotiating with their own headquarters. They're negotiating with their own stakeholders, convincing them that this is a win, that this is somehow a good deal. That's when the China negotiators' true skills come out in most cases. And you thought, all right, at least it's over, but it's not. Now comes depression as you realize that even the thin, wispy tissue of lies that you spun around the world's greatest deal and the deal that's going to move this company forward, that's falling away. And it turns out, it becomes very, very obvious that you just spent a lot of time and a lot of money negotiating with a joint venture partner or a supplier or a counterparty in China that is not currently returning your phone calls. And your reputation is taking a big hit. And that makes you sad. And finally, there will be acceptance. Well, sure, it's tough. It didn't play out exactly the way you had hoped. But hey, at least you're an old China hand now. So you'll be the guy giving advice the next time someone else from your company or your country decides to set out and change the way China does business. Final word. The U.S. wants a quick win that will look good to stakeholders back home, and that's exactly what we're going to get. China is ascendant at the moment on the global stage, but it's not necessarily because they are doing anything right. A lot of the hard work is being done for China. OBOR or BRI, the One Belt, One Road initiative, should be a much tougher sell in Europe and ASEAN, but instead it's picking up speed. On the other hand, the anti-Huawei coalition that the U.S. was building at one point, it should have been a layup. That should have been easy. but it's already falling off the headlines, which means it's probably not going to be a thing much longer. The U.S. State Department has spent so much time and so much energy just loving it up with North Korea and with Russia and with a lot of other former enemies that we can't seem to put together an alliance of our former friends. The only potential good news is that China may get overconfident and start alienating people. In China, the hubris warning lights are definitely flashing, and that means that China is about to get interesting again. Thanks very much. For China Solved, I'm Andrew Hubert, and this has been the China Negotiator. For more on the topic of managing conflict in China business, check out my book, The Fragile Bridge. Thanks again. I'll talk to you soon.